I think I have two modes, and I mentioned this a little bit in my little riff on meditation. And one is just silence. I think prayer at its most profound is just finding a place to be alone with God. The asking of favors and the begging for forgiveness are ancillary to that, I would say. Because God has already forgiven. And the fact that you sit down in front of him and open your heart and soul in that moment is enough. But secondly, I take Jesus' admonition about prayer, which is to say the Lord's Prayer, the prayer that he asked us and told us to say. And in it, I think, you can see whole universes of meaning. Religion in many ways is and should be extremely simple. I mean, the extraordinary artifices of theology that have been constructed to justify God knows what miss some very simple facts of life, that we live and we die. And the Lord's Prayer itself is a miraculous thing. I make it a habit when I go out in the summer to the dunelands and marshlands of the end of Cape Cod to always pray. Sometimes I sit with water up to here, surrounded by... There was one day when I was suddenly a little sort of thunderstorm came through and all the water started dancing around me. So because I was in the water up to my neck, but seated on the sand, it was quite a wonderful, weird spiritual experience. But I say the Lord's Prayer, Our Father. Again, ours, not an exclusive thing. Ours is everybody's. Father, which is a force that it is as loving as a father. So that's how we address it. Who art in heaven. What does that mean? Whose existence and whose zone is a place of such calm and peace and love that we immediately understand where God stands in relation to us and our search to be in that place, which can occur now as well as after death. Blessed be thy name. Self-explanatory. Thy kingdom come. I've always had a difficulty with that. But I think rather than seeing it as some sort of eschatological prediction of the end of the world, which many do, and which is a perfectly legitimate interpretation, I think of it as the fact that human beings, through the great arc of history, are, I think, and this is where recent works like Steven Pinker or Bob Wright are so interesting. We are very, very, very slowly reaching towards, I think, a new way of being human. I trying to overcome the beastiness in order to reach for the angel in us, to put it in Pascalian terms. And I think that is happening. I think sin is forever. But I do wonder that willing that to happen now, never thinking of it, advancing it, may it come, is even though we will never see it. It's like Martin Luther King's mountaintop, the promised land. To believe in that destination knowing that you will not get there is a profoundly Christian notion. Thy will be done. Let us love one another on earth as it is in heaven, which is where they come together through our work on earth. Father, thy kingdom, thy will be done on earth. Give us this day our daily bread. Again, what greater indictment of Western capitalism is there? We say it every day. All these Christianists say it with the same fervor. But no, what it's saying is that all we should be interested in materially is our daily bread. And not only that, we should expect God to provide it. There's enough there. Jesus is incredibly radical in this sense. um, and forgive us our trespasses. Forgive those of us who fail to be with him and to love one another. But equally, the injunction is upon us also to forgive those who trespass against us, the forgiveness of others, the letting go of grudges, of hatreds, of slights, of feuds, of griefs. I think that's what that is really calling us to do. And with each line of this prayer, the possibility of meditation on it is exponential. As we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Best if we avoid moments where really our human nature will be most vulnerable. But notice that that prayer leads it to God, asks him. And yes, there is evil. And it exists, and it's real, and it occurs. It occurs in every place and every time. It occurs in the sweetest, nicest middle-class family you could possibly imagine, in the most lovely suburb. There is evil being done. Probably cruelty between spouses or child abuse, as well as, of course, the more obvious evils of someone like Assad, murdering children for the sake of his own power. To be delivered from such things is a mercy. Now, within what I've just said, which I didn't mean to get into, but I realized that prayer is enough. No other prayer is necessary. The only other prayer apart from the Hail Mary, which I pray, is the prayer of St. Francis. Let me be an instrument of your peace. The beautiful, simple prayer of a simple Christian who really left everything of the world and communed with nature and animals and changed human consciousness a little. So those are my prayers. And I've tried to combine them with, as I said, meditation beforehand, just to get me into a space where I can pray. And I know people laugh because they think of P-Town as this big party town, which it is, of course. But it isn't that. You can get away from that all the time. It's a place I go for really spiritual restoration. Anyway, amen.